Alright, hey guys, Phil here again, and welcome to my first video from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I just moved here with a backpack and a guitar, and my dream is to explore local styles of music and make videos about it. And of course, keep making cool guitar lessons along the way for you too. So everyone learns a little bit differently. So today, I've got a bunch of tips for you on how to learn your chords a little bit faster. Learning chords is the hardest thing that beginner guitar players do. It's a giant pain in the butt. It takes a lot of practice. And well, if you clicked on this video, you're probably looking for some interesting and really useful ways to help your chord changes get a little faster. Now today, I got 8 tips for you. Some of them are technique tips on how to change your chords faster. Some of them are little exercises you can try, or even ways of thinking that are going to teach you to make these chord changes better and faster. So make sure to stick around until the last 2, because they're some of the kind of the stranger ones, but they're going to be really useful for you. So let's get you a little bit of a close-up view, and let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's talk about my little system of 3 steps to learn any chord you ever learn. The good news is, only one of these steps is actually a bit tricky. The rest of them really just involve repetition. So step 1 when you're learning a new chord is just to try and make it work in the first place. Now, chances are you found some chords that were a little tricky. Let's take a C chord, for example. Every finger in this chord can block the string underneath it. So in step 1, it's all about troubleshooting and making tiny little adjustments to make sure every note rings cleanly. And that's really what step 1 is to test out your chord one note at a time. And if any of the notes are blocked, make little adjustments until it works. This one takes the most patience because everyone's hands are different. Now, if you've got that far with any particular chord, that's fantastic. That's the only hard part. After that, step 2, I call it resetting your fingers. And I'm going to ask you to try this out because it's super cool. So you're going to bring your fingers way out here, so you're starting from scratch. You're going to form the chord again, and you're going to test it out again, one string at a time. And then you do it again. Reset, test it out, reset, test it out. Oh, if one's blocked, you figure out how or why, and then you fix it. There we go. Now step 3 is really a bonus. That's just to take 2 chord shapes and go back and forth. So if you apply those 3 steps to any chord you ever learn, it'll really help you get there faster. And if you can't do step 1, you shouldn't be going to step 2, and you shouldn't be going to step 3 either. So that will help you as well. So tip 2 for learning your chords, well, is all about starting at the top, starting with what to do with your thumb. Now for most types of guitars, and for most of our open string chords that have open strings in them, some people call them campfire chords, your thumb is going to be right about here, right about next to the 2nd fret. And you want to find the spot where you can just barely curl it around to touch the 6th string. See? There's going to be lots of situations where we want to mute the 6th string to kill the vibrations. I'm not squeezing down and getting a note. I'm just muting. there, you can bring the rest of your hand around and get it as far forwards as possible to help you curl your fingers around. Now this actually also applies to pretty much all of our basic chords. Your thumb never moves. Sometimes you'll relax it when you need the sixth string, like in an E chord, but most of the time you're going to end up touching the sixth string to kill the vibrations. So we're going to do tips 3 and 4 together. Tip 3 is to just pick 2 chords at a time and go back and forth. If you're trying to work on a song, write out every possible chord combination in the song and work on each one individually. And tip 4 is to look for similarities between your chords. For example, let's take a C chord and a D chord. It's a pretty big finger movement, but if you take a look, these 2 fingers, they're actually in the exact same position for both chords. So they're not moving that much at all. They're just lifting up and moving over. Now, many chord pairs have something similar in between. Some of them even have a finger in common, like a G if you play a 4-finger G, and a D. My 3rd finger can stay squeezing down. We call that an anchor finger, and it's not going to go anywhere. So pay close attention for similarities between chord pairs. Now, tip number 5 actually has nothing to do with chords at all. Tip number 5 is to play more single note lines. Many guitar players pick up the guitar and they try and learn chords right away. And I always call that like putting a 4-year-old in a university class. It's a lot. It's very complicated. And if you play single notes, you're going to notice that playing 1 note at a time is hard enough. So if you're not playing enough single notes, riffs or scales or little exercises, anything you like, do more of that. It's going to build up your coordination. It's going to build up your finger strength. And that's really going to help you with your chords too. Now, tip number 6 is just to practice your chords more often in small doses. Anytime we're trying to memorize something, we want to review it as often as possible, even just for a few minutes. So if you can do this 2 or even 3 times a day, even just for 3 to 5 minutes if you can, that's really going to help your brain decide, oh wow, I got to remember this. Okay, so if you made it this far, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I really hope this helps. I'm trying to go at this from different angles because everybody learns a little bit differently. And if you try all of these tips, I think some of them are definitely going to help you. Now, you still have to repeat these chords a lot. For muscle memory to kick in, you've got to repeat it a lot. And it will get better and better. It takes a lot of patience. So here are my final 2 slightly stranger tips, but these really help as well. Now you might have noticed that when your thumb is over the top, all your fingers should be kind of leaning on each other. It's not like this when your thumb is down and your fingers are spread apart. If you're trying to change chords like that, it's going to make it much more difficult and much more tense for your muscles. So, again, I'm picking on a C chord today. So if my fingers are leaning on each other, first thing I want you to do is just try and relax your fingers, but keep them in the same spot. Now, if we pretend that your fingers are glued together and you lift them off of the guitar, they're going to form a finger shape. right? All this is a C chord. My fingers are touching in a very specific shape, and you can concentrate on how that feels. If you can do that, and you can put it back, there's a C chord. So this method is really thinking about how our fingers are joined together, right? Looks weird, but hey, there's a G chord. And there it is like that. So you can pay attention to how it feels, what the finger positions feel like, and you can also try and relax your hand as much as possible while keeping your fingers in that position. All right, final tip, number 8. So this one is all about picturing the next chord in your mind. Let's say we're going from a C to a G. Pretty much everybody, when they start, walks their way into chords one note at a time. I bet you've done it before. Maybe you're still doing it, right? Walking yourself into each chord one note at a time. So with this method, let's say I'm holding down a C chord. Now, this assumes that you're at least a little bit comfortable with each of these chords. So you would picture the G chord in your mind. You can close your eyes, if that helps, and just picture where every single finger goes, picture how it feels to move to that spot. A lot of what we're doing is actually taking place in your brain, not just your fingers. So the goal is to picture every single note in the next chord and only move your fingers once you can picture every single one. And then you're going to try and jump them all together, if you can, as quickly as possible to that next chord shape. Then I would picture the C chord again in my mind. Picture how it feels, picture all the movements, and only when you're fully ready, jump back to the C chord. Try it out. This is going to teach your brain to absorb the feelings of these chord shapes, and that's going to help you memorize them even faster. So, a little bit of something for everyone in this video. I hope that really helped you. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Hopefully you liked, subscribe, and share my channel and all that fun stuff. And let me know where you're joining me from and what kind of videos you want me to help you with. All right, see you next time.